What is up, Wrongful Beans? It's Gage here, and today we got special guest Zelena Hull, who's a coming star and singer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on, Gage.
Of course. Actually, I mix this two up. You're a upcoming star singer, But anyway, it's a pleasure to have you here. And I kind of want to start off like, what brought you to singing? Like, what was the journey with that?
Okay, it was a bit more like my mom's friend was like, Zelena's good at singing, and my mom's like, okay, let's take her to piano lessons. It was very it was very cut and dry.
So that's how it works sometimes. That's how it works sometimes. I was wondering, did you always know you're autistic, or did you find later in life that you were?
So my mom suspected I was autistic from the very start. However, I got a proper diagnosis when I was like 11 years old. So basically, there was some body language clues that clued her into saying I was autistic. For example, when I was a baby, I could lift up my head from day one. And so what I would do is instead of like, you know how babies lay on their mother, I
Yeah.
would push myself up and look around. And I didn't really want too much body contact. And she noticed that as when I was an infant, that okay, that's interesting. Because she's had raised her brother and her younger brother and sister, so she knew how babies usually act. So she started paying attention to stuff like that. For example, I couldn't look at the camera when I was younger. It took me a very long time of her training me to look at the camera, being able to look the camera in the eye and stuff like that. So it was kind of like little things that clued her in because, okay, so she was getting a bachelor's in psychology and she had to stop because she couldn't do public speaking. So basically, she had trained as, had gotten a large portion of the way there of being a psychologist and, kind of like stopped when she wanted to have a kids anyway and was having a hard time with, the public speaking and couldn't get it down. But that was what gave her like the tools to be able to see me and like, oh, I think she's autistic.
Wow. And I've heard like women have a hard time getting diagnoses than males because I heard that's been like a problem even like 30 years back. That's when it really started to get more difficult.
Yeah, I really didn't have a problem because I was severely autistic. I was given a diagnosis my psychologist said it was very similar to Temple Grandin's diagnosis. It was very obvious. I had a very monotone voice. I had to have things a certain way. I couldn't deal with stress. I couldn't really read body language at all. So we went to the psychologist, and after my mom found out that I was basically giving a diagnosis that I could never live on my own, that it was so severe, the psychiatrist said it would be a stretch for her even to graduate high school.
Wow. And now you're going for your master's.
Yeah. So basically what changed is there was two key things that kind of changed. One is my mom was like, okay, Zelena has to be able to deal with stress in stressful situations because her brain turns off if she's stressed out. She can't think properly. So what she did is she put me in a hardcore karate kickboxing class. 3 days a week I had to go. So it was like super intense. The coach would yell at you. Basically, my mom was thinking, what turns like a wimp into a man? It's boot camp, but I don't want to put my kid in boot camp. Let's put her in a hardcore karate class that is he was a police officer that led the class. So he was super strict and like in the beginning I was crying and stuff and everybody else was fine. And then over time I kind of like was able to deal with the stress, like do it now, do it now, do it now, and being able to deal with stress. And basically I got to the point where I didn't get stressed out when the car was playing music and I had to do homework or if a stressful situation happened. By the time I was like 14, I had like all the stress issues down, like completely gone. And I was actually in a serious car accident when I was, I think, 14, 15. And I didn't freak out or anything. My first thought was to get my grandmother out of the vehicle, and I did. I
Wow.
basically told her, you have to get out of the vehicle just in case it catches on fire, because we were pinned between 3 cars. And they basically said I should have broken my nose and had a serious issue. But what I did is, when I saw the car coming our way in the crash, I relaxed my body and I didn't stress out. So I didn't have, I only had a little bit of bruising, even though they thought I should have had like a broken nose or a broken arm. Because I basically, when you're in car accidents and you relax, you're less likely to get hurt.
Yeah, say that like when people like have DUI accidents, like since their body's so relaxed from like being intoxicated, that they have a lot less damage usually than people that are regularly driving. So it's interesting, like not stressing out really does, because actually when you're stressed out, it's like pulling poison in your body, because you see
And
it like
inflammation
people that are
too,
really stressed out, their whole body changes.
yeah. And it's insane. I have like a number two of what I did that really got me over the finish line of being able to move on with my life with the autism diagnosis, is learning body language. I know, most people, the way I looked at it is, he told me that, you're very smart. You probably could, lessen some of the symptoms and maybe, pull through. But I realized body language, it's a language like any other language. People learn French and Spanish all the time. Can I analytically look at body language and figure out the patterns and learn it through practice? And that's what I did. I would go in, watch fictional media like Star Wars: The Republic, play video games, and I would look at the character's body language and try to say, what emotion are they feeling? And why are they feeling that emotion? And over time, me repetitiously doing this with animated shows and like cartoons and video games, and then slowly working to like the actual nuanced facial expressions of a real person, is what kind of, it took me like roughly like 2 years to get decent at it. And now I pretty much have my ability to learn see body language like on par with an average person that's not neurotypical.
Yeah.
So I just practiced and versed it, kind of like almost like flashcards, except I did it mentally. If you're doing it with a kid, maybe you should have flashcards. This is angry, this is sad, and just do with the basics, and then slowly get more nuanced. Like, oh, this is disgust, or this is the context of this. So maybe this is like, not disgust, and maybe it's just cringing, or different responses and context informs not only like the not just like the person's face, but their arms. Like arms being crossed usually means like, the person is being a little defensive, shielding themselves, and kind of looking at overall puzzles, like pieces of the puzzle, and putting it together. The context, not just the facial expressions, the body expressions, and what's the interaction like.
Body
And what's the
language is
tone of
very
voice?
important. That's one saying I haven't learned too much about, but when I was in social events, I had, especially when I was younger, I had really hard time. Like I'm one of those guys. Like when I was younger, I would laugh at very awkward situations, and I felt very embarrassed by that, and different situations that I've been through when I was younger. I'm like, why did I do that? And I'm one person like, how can I prevent this from happening? Like, I can't do that again. And luckily, I had an older brother that really helped me with that, Hunter, and he kind of explained to me like why that's not the best time to do that. And then over time, I was able to work on it and get better at like reading a room and reading social cues from other people.
Yeah. It takes a lot of work and a lot of practice. And I actually had to do a lot of this, figuring this out online. I was actually in online high school because me and my family were moving. So I learned almost all of this reading body language while I was online in online school.
Were you always in online school?
No, what happened is, um, uh, kindergarten through middle school, I was in public school, like that was in person. We switched to online school because we were moving districts and stuff, and we didn't want to have to deal with that, so we moved to an online school. Also, the fact that if we would have stayed at my previous school and went there a little longer, they didn't have trigonometry classes, so they didn't have a lot of classes that I needed to go to it, get a college, be able to go to college.
Oh wow.
So the previous school district had a very bare bones high school, and I knew that I needed more courses and some more substantial material because I went to college a year early because of how good my coursework was. However, since they wanted one more credit out of me, I still had to stay at high school while I was in college. I had a very interesting situation going on.
Hey, it worked out. You know, you're getting your master's, and it's shown how far you came from. Like people saying, it's going to be a miracle if she makes it through high school. And now you're literally on your master's. Like that is
Thank
an
you.
incredible journey.
Thank you. That's kind of like why I like to share my autism journey, is so people like, I noticed that a lot of people, when they realize their child is autistic, they kind of coddle them
Yeah,
to an extent where it's harmful. Like, there's a difference between I love you and I love you unconditionally, and then shielding them from the world so much and saying, you don't have to change at all. You're perfect the way you are. But everybody has to change. Everybody has to go and do their own character arcs, with, lack of a better word. Everybody has to grow and develop. And if you try to not let your kid grow and develop, they're going to stay at that same stage throughout their entire life with that age and that lack of maturity.
exactly. That's what happened with me and my mom. She would like I would like to go to my friend's house or something like that, and my mom was always super against it, and she's very protective, overly protective, and it definitely hindered me growing up a little bit. Not that I'm not grateful for it, but so that overprotective love it can hurt them in the long run because then that's experience. They're going to have to go through the experiences at one point in their lives, so it's going to be a lot harder when they're older. Like that's kind of where I was. Like when I
Yeah,
got out of high school, it got very difficult.
yeah. There's like in the real world, everybody has to like collaborate and compete against everybody. Even you might have to work with this one person and collaborate with this one person, and you might also have to kind of compete with them in some aspects too. Life is like this give and take that I was never shielded. I mean, maybe like physically, like keeping me from physical harm. But as far as like mentally, I had to figure out how to get through stressful situations, disagreements, and read people's body language. Because when you're out there and put out there in the real world, especially as a woman, you have to kind of understand if someone's stalking you, if there's someone that's going to physically hurt you, what their
Mm.
intentions are. You have to be worldly in order to, live and or not be hurt.
Yeah, there's a lot of awareness, especially with women, that comes with because there's I feel like in some scenarios it's only getting worse, especially with social media and things like that. And
Oh yeah, it's completely like endorsing a lot of bad behavior. I'd say that's the big problem with social media, is a lot of people feel anonymous even if they aren't, and they are willing to go to places that they shouldn't.
yeah, yeah,
I
and
think it's taken, and now social media has been a good as far as getting people more aware about issues and more open about things that are hurting people, and getting the word out there. But it's a double edged sword.
it is always and there's a lot of comparison on social media. Like especially with women, they compare themselves to people that yeah, they could be using AI to make their body look that perfect or fillers.
Hmm.
And it's really like we gotta give yourself more love than that. Like these some of these women, you gotta be real. They might not. They might be using fillers, things like that, and then it
Yeah,
can
I
grow
think a lot
their
of people
self
are.
confidence.
Yeah, a lot of people are losing touch with reality and what people are actually like. That's the big. That's the the lack of critical thinking while on social media is a big issue because a lot of people are being put on there at a young age and not able to critically think and see, oh, is the information I'm seeing is just fictional or is it real?
Exactly, and especially when you're young, it's very you think everything's just about real on there, because it's there. But that's like for me, I think kids should explore more of their creativity instead of always on their iPads. Unfortunately, like
I
parents
know. I
kind of
think it's very damaging for kids. I've never been addicted to social media. I'd say maybe I listen to a lot of YouTube as far as like historical stuff on YouTube and stuff like that, informational content. But I've never really been addicted to social media. So like sometimes I have days and days where I don't even touch my phone. Um, but I never really got addicted to social media, even though I started like at 12. I don't know why. I just didn't get really too into it. I enjoy the music part of my life so much, and I enjoy creating music. But I also want to share the music, and that's kind of like what social media is for. It's just sharing that music, and I really just don't like to be on social media that much. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword because oh, I love my music. I want to share my music. I want people to see the cool lyric videos and me creating content for my music, but I'm not kind of interested in spending hours on my phone looking at my feed.
yeah, it's it can get you very unconscious, and I'm gonna be fully honest, I am a little bit addicted to my phone, because I do a lot on there. Like I do a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
social
good
media things
job.
on there, and
Yeah.
it's a rabbit hole, and I really think, and like our attention spans has gotten so low from these like TikTok videos and the 30-second videos because our mind is just processing that. And it's like 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds over and over. And that affects your
Attention.
intake, and I think that's a reason why like there's a like I live in like Florida and drivers are a lot more crazy, like as far as driving. I'm like, well, bro, like there was one time I was just walking and it was my way to go and I almost got hit. I was like, holy shit, because they don't like they're not patient or like and they don't have they just don't slow down because they're used to like always going fast all the time, like this adrenaline rush almost.
Yeah, at this point, I really feel like people are so addicted to their phones that I do feel like if there was ever like an internet blackout of any kind, that a lot of people could not cope.
It got there's dopamines going in your brain. That's not an adrenaline rush, but endorphins going through your brain. These chemicals that get released every time you get excited by something you flip on, like, oh, that's interesting, and that's scrolling, and you just kind of go unconscious because you're not thinking about, okay, this is where I want to watch, and this is something I want to learn from. You're just scrolling. You're not
Yeah,
really.
I have been very intentional with what I watch. Like, hey, I want to watch something on the specific subject, this news topic. I think it's just because I'm not the type of person that usually watches stuff with my brain turned off. So that's why it's always been kind of hard for me to scroll through social media and like and like and like. I think because I always like to be intellectually challenged. I like to look at a topic that's like, oh my God. That's why I usually tend to get really invested in fictional stuff where I see big old plot holes and stuff I can fill myself.
Yeah.
It has a lot of the key pieces there, but you have a lot of room to just critically think about something and think, oh, wait a minute, why did this happen? Maybe you could have had this happen. A lot of social media takes away that critical thinking for you. They tell you what you should think. Now, there's a difference between telling someone your opinion and saying, "Hey, here's the facts, here's my opinion, but take it away with your own opinion." And there's a difference in then, "Oh, this is the only narrative that's right." Because I like to look at things and I like to say, "Okay, a lot of people are saying, I don't know if anything's true or false. How do I verify something's true or false?" Well, for example, there was this AI, basically a story that was created by AI that went viral on the internet about some guy getting revenge against a police officer. So the first thing you do, you look up the police report, see if it exists, see if there's any, actual police statement by the local police department of that area. It doesn't exist. there's no evidence for this. So I think in the age of misinformation and social media, I think the biggest thing we can do is critically think and look for proof and not just allow things to be, thrown at us and just like, just don't just turn on one news station and just sit there. It's going to require investigating people to be a lot more invested in their news and how they view the world for them to have an accurate picture of reality. And a lot of people just won't do it. A lot of people are just want to sit and just enjoy their content they're watching, whether it's real or not. And if they think it's real and it's not real, it is seriously damaging.
Yeah, because a lot of misinformation gets flown in, and especially with AI coming in, I think AI can bring in a lot of good things, but also it's a two-edged sword, and there's going to be a lot of misinformation that gets flooded because of AI.
Yeah,
Because
there's
people are using AI to create misinformation.
yeah, I mean, so there's different types of AI. There is LLMs, which are a generative AI model. Those are the things that are creating the fabricated stories. How they work is they have a probability of what word goes against what word. Basically, okay, I see these words in this line. How often are they going to be in a line together? That's how it works. It's probability. So they do the same thing with images. Okay, what pixel is usually beside this pixel? And they just do it pixel by pixel and build up the whole image. These things aren't capable of reasoning and able to understand nuance. For example, in AI, the way they trained ChatGPT was yes, no. So they could look at a news article and they couldn't tell if it's like a slightly right wing bias, slightly left wing bias. They say either right wing, left wing. They don't understand nuance since they are not capable of reasoning. They are a probability model. I'm doing a computer science master, we had to look into the algorithms that they use on these things, and it's probability based. It's flip of a dime. Like, what is the most likely thing going to happen based off of this word, this word, this word? What is the most likely next word that comes? That's why LLMs are bad at math because they are probability based. They don't have a section that's like, oh, I have to go into my logarithmic algorithm, a logic algorithm, and figure out how to add this. No, they just see two. What's the most likely number that goes besides two?
Yeah, that's you broke it down pretty well, and at Generation AI, like that's been used pretty heavily. Now, I did find one that was pretty interesting. It was like if Anakin Skywalker would apologize to Obi-Wan Kenobi, just kind of before, like, why? Because it was just really cool how they did it, But there is some cool, interesting things, but
Yeah,
overall,
there's like a difference between like someone in a mocap suit having an AI filter or
yeah,
like using parts of it to modify performance or something. Like, for example, if they use an artificial intelligence, like, a voice sample for like a modulator and an actor's voice. There's a difference between that and scanning the likeness of an actor and using their likeness without their permission forever and forth, until the end of time.
yes, yeah, because that can stay on for a long time, and there's a
Yeah,
sense that the AI got to face.
yeah, destroy any actor having a new career in the future, destroy that actor's current career, and just overall make the industry like a hollow shell. Because there's nuances that AI cannot understand and will never understand.
Yeah, it's
Because it's
yeah,
probability based.
AI
It
is going to
can't,
be a double-edged sword, I think.
yeah, yeah. You even if LMMs are either banned or because, well, okay, so LMMs, they're likely not to be banned in the US, but what I think is going to happen is this. What happens is they require a lot of energy and a lot of water. Their energy output, I think it was like at 2025, Google's their LLM that they use might be like a huge, like 38% or whatnot of like Ireland's energy grid that it would require to power the model. So these models require entire nations worth of power in their current setup, and they'll require even more in the future, even though what we're getting is almost like a mediocre product. And it can't be really scaled up to be better because AI has the copy of a copy. Whenever you got like an assignment from like a teacher, sometimes it was like really hard to read, and you were like, "Why is this look crappy?" It's a copy of copy. LLMs, when they get data sent in that is AI generated, the copy of a copy problem starts. I was reading some studies, and all it needed, like some AIs, all they needed is like 10 to 100 corrupted samples, and they were completely, gibberish on a specific, subject. Like, for example, if you have uh an image generator that's supposed to be able to generate images of cats, but then you mislabel some cat images as elephants.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Or you have an AI image of a cat that gets put into the AI and it just focuses on some key features that it just turns into just giant eyes. There has been funny examples of LLMs eating their own tail, so to speak. I've been looking on GitHub, and there's several examples of insanity.
Yeah, AI is certainly going to be, it's very interesting, but I think it's only going to get more interesting as time goes.
Yeah, I do think the scary part about AI is that like logic algorithms and like automation are probably going to take over a lot of menial labor. I mean, robots are probably going to take over the factories. They already have. They're going to get more sophisticated. So the person that has to load the machine parts, that job is already being automated by a
Yeah.
lot of these different PLC companies like Siemens and stuff. They already make PLCs that are uh, good enough to do this kind of stuff. And I think in the future that type of automation is going to be far more common. But I do think LLMs, the AI generated content on the internet, is a lot more dangerous socially versus robots in a factory. Robots in the factory one are concerning because if like jobs like burger flippers and people that do the grill and do fast food are automated, and if you start basically the easiest things to automate usually are like the bottom rung jobs, so-called bottom rung jobs that are like considered not highly skilled.
Yeah.
However, there's a caveat. Is it more cost intensive to keep a person flipping burgers? Or is it more cost intensive having a robot flipping burgers and having to constantly service that PLC?
I think with those jobs, it would be good. I think the AI actually is going to be doing a good job with those because I think they're going to value. There's some things robots AI won't be able to do. Like you singing. There's certainly no way a robot can like produce really good music like that unless he's getting it from someone else that's made it.
Yeah,
And there's certain jobs like being a speaker and things like that that have high value that AI won't be able to take away. And I think people
yeah.
here
Now
will have to bring up the value.
I do believe companies are going to try to take it away and try, but they're going to ultimately probably realize that it's not cost intensive to do so, or it's not favorable amongst the public. For example, a ChatGPT search. One ChatGPT search has the energy equivalent of 10 Google searches. So these models are expensive to maintain. They're starting to talk about OpenAI, that company that has ChatGPT. They're starting to talk about them having liquidity issues. They have to have like $5 billion a year roughly in VC funding to stay afloat because they aren't profitable yet.
Wow, that's crazy.
These models, their data centers that they have to run off of, are so energy intensive. They cost a lot to maintain with energy, but they also cost personnel, staff, equipment maintenance, all of that. And there hasn't been one that is cost effective yet. So a lot of this AI if it's not cost effective, it's going to go away. Because a lot of these algorithms that LLMs use have been around since the 80s. So a lot of experts, well, not experts, sorry, a lot of the people promoting AI are saying, oh, it's going to have exponential growth. However, I was looking at some papers, and it looks like, actual, computer scientists and stuff, and it looks like what we're probably going to see is logarithmic growth. With logarithmic growth, you go up like this, and it looks exponential, and then it flatlines pretty much. So we're at the point where it's kind of flatlining. AI can't really get much better because it's not capable of reasoning. The probability models are not perfect. It's just probability. It's like, I can guess with 50% certainty that this is going to be the next word in the sentence. So more about physical robots taking over people's jobs. What happens is a lot of these robots are costly to maintain. So you look at it and you're paying someone $100,000 a year to do a job. Well, if to maintain that robot and to have that robot's 200,000, then it's not cost effective to do it. So some jobs will be automated. Like, instead of maybe having a robot flipping burgers, maybe they'll put it through a griddle that's automated that just grills both sides at once. And they'll just have to change their processes, gut out their previous equipment, put something in. But you're probably going to have staff on hand to maintain the system. And you're most likely going to have someone who has knowledge of PLCs and how they run. Because what happens is standardized software in the real world, when you try to put it into a machine, sometimes there's tweaks you have to make, depending on the setup, depending on the, what is it going to do? Or if there's a new update to patch in, if the update doesn't go right, you're going to have people service these robots. And these, for example, if they were flipping burgers, you'd have to have people to service the robots. You'd have to have people that could code and do PLCs. So someone they'd have to have an understanding of coding and robotics.
Yeah. There's going to be jobs like that, and even robots that are kind of started. Not exactly AI, but like there's self checkouts now in grocery stores, and it's already kind of started, and I think it's only going to grow. I think it's like 10 years from now until it really gets here, but yeah, it's already kind of started.
A little bit of a dire warning with the AI thing is my father works at a automobile plant, and he's like a PLC person who programs PLCs. So when PLCs went into the plant, which are like, the robots with the arms that load the parts on the machine, for example, you'd have 100 jobs lost, and you'd only have 15 people that were replaced, or like 10 people that replaced those jobs with coding jobs and PLC jobs. So when there's automation, there's going to be a net job loss. It's not going to increase jobs at all. It's going to lose jobs, because basically automation takes out a lot of the manual work needed. In an ideal society, that would open us up to more advanced jobs and more advanced training and more personable jobs. But, again, society and businesses and government can't really keep up with the technological changes that are happening because they don't have the resources to, or in a lot of cases, they just don't care. So even at these, I don't think the LMMs are an issue, but I think they're probably going to become not cost effective, and some of them are going to be phased out in the long term. They're like immediate term issue with like misinformation and stuff. I do think a lot of them will be phased out in the long term, and basically their bubble burst. But I do see that automation will be a further issue in the future. And I think as things progress, we will see the true image of how many jobs will be lost. I was looking at a Goldman Sachs report. They said, due to factoring in all types of AI, they said that there will probably be a 300 million net job loss across the world.
Yeah, there's going to be a big number. I'd say like within 10 to
Yeah,
20
they're
years.
either going to have to do universal basic income to make up for the huge unemployment issue because, companies can't sell product if their consumers are broke.
Oh yeah.
So at some point, it might sort itself out because companies realize, oh crap, we can't sell product. Or the economic model changes, or there's universal basic income, or something else has to, unless they're willing to have like a 30% unemployment rate.
Yeah, it's going to be a high number, and I think this is more idealistic, but I think eventually we're going to people that don't have the super high value of like of their current jobs. There's going to be communities that are built, so they're going to have to rely on each other because obviously they won't be able to rely on the government to like pay them for jobs like flipping burgers and things like that. So I think
Hmm.
there's going to be a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of changes within 20
Oh
years.
yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more gig work in the future of highly skilled professionals that have to go from gig to gig. I think a lot of the job security that we had in the past is going to be gone. Especially like I think 30% of people in America now do gig work. I have friends that now do gig work that like deliver for Walmart and Uber Eats and stuff like that. I think that's what a lot of this is going to go down to because they're going to want to cut costs on even people that they currently employ. If they're going to have less profits from people buying their product, they're either going to try to cater to the people that are very wealthy that can make up for that loss, or they're going to cut costs wherever they can and get independent contractors, make people's salary lower. It's going to be, depending on how it goes, it can be a snake eating its own tail or a snake eating its own tail, but then trying to change its clientele to the richest like 5%.
Yeah, I think at least in my opinion, I think we're gonna have to. There's gonna be more communities built, well, because there's gonna be a lot of jobs that are lost, and we're gonna have to really rely on each other. And I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this place, but the Hostel in the Forest. There's like cabins, and they work together, like providing food
Yeah,
and just
communal
building
living.
resources.
I do see that that's probably not going to be mainstream for a while because Americans are super individualistic. I mean, we're one of the most individualist nations on earth. Like, oh, it doesn't bother me. I only
Oh,
care about
that,
myself. It's kind of like what individualism, in its most toxic form is. A lot of places have like a 50% rating on individualism. They're like, I see value in the community. I feel part of the community. I still, value myself somewhat. But America's like 80 to 90% individualistic, which means like we really heavily care about ourselves and only like our immediate selves and what we immediately care about and our family that's like immediate to us. That's why, in America, you don't really hear about people having a lot of extended family. You only hear about mom, dad, and that's pretty much it. People are lucky. They have their grandparents in the picture and their nephews and stuff and their nieces and more extended family and more extended cousins. But I think the disconnect that people have from not just their family, but like their actual social circles, like there's a loneliness epidemic too, because of the internet, but also people not going out and people just, starting to lose connection with each other. Even if you didn't have the internet, I think we'd still have a loneliness epidemic. I think it's just a societal baked in thing because of uh, industrialization, city design, reliance on the car in America. That's why you're not seeing the loneliness epidemic really happen in Europe and places that have travel where you can just walk to the store. I think what's going to happen if they want us to stay with the same economic structure without people peeling off into the making their own communities or going to Europe and stuff, they're going to have to probably change city planning as a big selling point of the future.
yeah, and you're absolutely correct. There is a big disconnect, and like even people like in the apartment complexes, they're just in a big box. It's not like they're getting together for dinner, like getting together once a week just to connect with one another. Like It's so like, if, for example, you don't find out someone dies literally a week later until you smell it, and if they were connected as a community, they would have found out not that long ago, or like
Yeah,
within the 2 days. Like, we're very disconnected, and community. And I've learned this from my own experiences. It's very important, and it's really
it is
needed,
very
especially in these
important.
times.
And it's hard to maintain too, because a lot of people don't like to compromise or critically think about stuff or think about other people's emotions or like be tolerant of like people that have slightly different lifestyles, it's a big thing, especially where I am, that people just get like divided for like no reason. Or even if you like agree on 90% of issues, that 1%, I understand if someone is like dating someone else, I would want them to have the complete, the same worldview as me, because that's like a big thing I have as a personal with like dating. But I'm just talking about friendships. A lot of people need to give and take because people have like slightly different opinions on something or have nuance to this opinion because they're an expert in this field or are more interested in this field. I think a lot of society is just, I also think a big thing in our society is entitlement. They feel entitled to be special.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And it's like, hey, how can I be different from you? And I feel like this. The more and that's more like separation. That's how I feel about it. And
Mm-hmm.
this might be a little controversial, but like, even with genders, I feel like there's a lot of them, and it can create
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
I
disconnect.
totally agree. Not only like scientifically, there's like people that have three X chromosomes or an XY, but somehow they don't develop proper, male parts because they lack an enzyme and stuff. It's also because we have constant social strong constructs that we create on a daily basis. Like, oh, this person is this political party, or this person is this race, or this person is this identity because they have these key characteristics. We put
Yeah,
each other in boxes and labels all the time. Everything that we created, every belief we have is a social construct of some kind that we have creatively agreed on. I mean, collectively agreed on.
yeah, and it's like that. We get so stuck. It's good to labels are really there to help you understand things, but we get to
Yeah,
a point where we identify with them, and
it's a
we
guide.
lose
It's
sight
a
of what
guide.
people.
It's a guide, but it's not a like a surefire roadmap that you have to always, go by the book. I mean, us as a species would not survive if we weren't adaptable.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's gotten a little too far. And we got into like even jobs like now, like if you're a certain race, you're gonna have more of a chance than that guy. And I think that is completely the opposite of what you want to do. And it
I
always should
mean,
be about
there
the
has to
percentage.
be, some equitable hiring practices. For example, a lot of times jobs will like, not want to hire someone because they're autistic. So there has to be some measures saying, hey, look, you can't deny people based on their race or, disability. And we want you to have like at least 5% of your workforce considered in that category just to guarantee that they can, be
Mm.
actually get jobs. It's like I agree with it being a guarantee to make sure at least, like a company cannot
Yeah,
just, like, for example, like if a company has a hiring bias of only like white males, you want to be able to make sure that they can't just hire only white males. You have to make sure that other people can get in the pot too, depending on the demographics of that area.
yeah, I agree with that. Everyone should have opportunity. I just think it gets a little like they go super deep into it, and I think everyone should have equal opportunity. And
Yeah,
I hope
I believe
someday we get
in
to the point
full
where,
equality. I'd say, but it's kind of sad that a lot of people don't, because without full equality, you're really kind of hindering a part of your, people. You're not seeing another person as an equal value, an equal part of yourself. And that's a big problem that I have with with society in general, is they see you as lesser for quality that you have that you don't have control over.
Exactly, and they didn't really give you a real chance, because they have their own judgments and agenda with that. And people with disabilities, sometimes people with disabilities actually can do a better job than your average person sometimes. Because even
Yeah,
for
I've heard
example,
that a lot of people that have dyslexia are very good at being architects and like mapping out physical spaces because they see things from like a different perspective.
exactly, and like you look at people that are autistic that are currently or have changed the world. Albert Einstein, Elon Musk, Greta Thunberg, she's an environmentalist, and
Yeah.
there's so many people that have labeled disabilities, but are like making the biggest difference in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I think I also do like a lot of people when with autism too is like, well, a lot of people with disabilities in general is, I believe in equality, but I also believe that people can be at fault and stuff too. I do think that sometimes people will wash away someone's issues just chalking it up to, oh, this, when I think everybody should be held to account, unless, of course, unless someone's like a child or something that's like incapable of reasoning. I think there's a lot of lines in the sand that people, like a lot of people don't understand nuance. They don't understand that, like a lot of, like I've seen a lot of autistic people feel like they're infantilized and stuff. And there is like a fine, like there's different lines in the sand based on someone's own physical limitations or mental limitations, and some people don't have any mental
You're good.
limitations, and they only have like just a different processing method. And I think the a lot of problems are caused by people not being able to have a gradient in their thinking, black and white, kind of like the big problem that I was talking about earlier with you outside of the interview with storytelling. Black and
Yeah,
white is not,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, it's they don't really they just kind of man whatever's easiest, that's it, you know. But it's like that people have gifts, you know, and I've been saying it's more of autism. Autism is a gift. I believe that, and people that have disabilities, they had to work harder than your average person, so they had to up their value in different ways. So I think like they should be given like a little bit more look and opportunity. And I've just seen a lot of people that have disabilities or have gifts, and I just see them like it just blows my mind.
Yeah, I'm not meaning to get off subject, but I was going to single of the week. I want to give people the cliff notes. I'm not sure if we talked about single of the week on the recording.
No, go ahead. I would love to talk more about like your signals and things like that. I'm very
Yeah,
interested.
I'm gonna do it for the people. You know the spiel, but I've been releasing a single every Friday for the past 105 weeks. It's on my I've already passed my 2-year anniversary of releasing a single every Friday. Recently, well, today I released, well, Friday as I am recording this, I released my single Turncoat, which is like a rock song with some classic rock influences and some hard rock influences, that has a shredding guitar solo that is about the American Revolution. Or you could also take it, because it's kind of like ambiguous, you can also take it as a love song. I was actually inspired to write it after watching some historical videos on YouTube, and it just kind of came to me. And it's like probably the best song I've ever written. And so it's called Turncoat, and it's out now.
Yeah,
It's on
I
the
took a
YouTube
listen
channel
to it and it sounds amazing.
Thank you. My last name for viewers is Hull, Zelena Hull.
Check her out, and she's also on YouTube. You can find a lot of music on there, and I want to hear. And this is what I was thinking about asking you earlier. What is your first big performance that you can remember?
Ooh, that I can remember. I sang at Zanzero's with my musical mentor Dan Caston.
how was that experience? Like, were you nervous beforehand, or were
No,
you like, okay, I got this?
I'm not nervous at all. I just went up there and sang. Like it was a spur of the moment thing. I was just seeing, I was just watching my mentor Dan Caston play on the stage, and he was like, "Hey, Zelena, you want to come up here?" I'm like, "Okay."
I'll give you credit. I would be very nervous. I'm not a singer or anything, but I feel like that'd be a little nerve wracking.
Yeah, I don't really get nervous. I get like amped up. Like I get so excited, I start shaking. It's like the complete.
That's awesome. What kind of do you have a specific guitar you use, or do you use different ones?
I use different ones. I started playing really good when I was introduced to Taylor guitars because my hand, it's very small. So it was a learning curve trying to press down the frets and stuff on the guitar. And so when I got the Taylor, it was so easy to press that we realized, oh, have her practice on that first, and then go to the more difficult guitars, which have like the bigger spacing between the strings and the fretboard.
Yeah, I've always thought about playing guitar, but I feel like it would take a lot to learn to do. When did you really get a hang of playing guitar?
Well, I mean, I kind of just did it by ear. So what happens is when I do a live performance with my guitar, I do some finger picking and some simple chords so I can keep up with my singing because it's kind of hard to play guitar and do guitar solos when you're singing at the same time. So I would say the best thing you can do is just getting into some simple chords first. A lot of people never really get the hang of bar chords, but I can do bar chords. But I can't do all of them because my hand's tiny. Like I can't do a lot of ninth bar chords because my hand just can't reach that far physically on the fretboard. But the piano is like the easiest thing. Like it is super easy. If you have a piano at home, it's super easy to learn. And there's a lot of guides on YouTube. So if you have a tiny, tiny hand and it's hard to play guitar because you have a tiny hand, I'd recommend piano. But or ukulele. You can play a ukulele with a tiny hand.
Yeah,
If you
it's
don't
pretty
have a tiny
miniature.
hand, then you don't have to worry about it being difficult to press the guitar. It just takes finger strength.
Oh yeah, yeah. Ukulele, it has such a peaceful melody to it, which I love.
Yeah, it does. But the reason why I don't have a ukulele is my mom hates the ukulele.
You don't like it?
She doesn't like it. She thinks it's like a mini baby guitar. That's what she sees. Every time she sees it and she sees people playing like this, she's just like, she doesn't mind the sound. She just doesn't like the way people look when they play it.
Oh wow. Yeah, and I want to ask you, what is your dream? Like I know you're really into singing, but do you have like a vision? Let's say like a year or two from now.
Well, I'm kind of like with my music, I'm gonna make more songs, of course. My goal is to get like to 150 singles of the week, and then I'll probably stop there. I'll see if I can get Guinness verification, but it's not like Guinness is very hard to get verification from. I just did a lot of research into it, so I can't kind of completely rely on them for like, oh, here's her world record that she broke. So even though I've broken the world record, I've broken it unofficially. It takes a while to figure that kind of stuff out. But many people break world records unofficially all the time. Like, for example, in a lot of video games, people break records of the person who did this game the fastest, who ran through this game the fastest, and it's never reported on by Guinness. So, like, that's kind of like the big thing that I'm looking forward to in the future, seeing if I can get Guinness certification. Now, 50 of my songs can't be certified because one of them was too short and broke up the record.
Yeah, I remember. I remember you talking about that a while. Like I think it was. I'm not sure how long ago it was, but I remember you talking about like you breaking a record.
So hopefully my unofficial record will be 150, but at that point my official record will probably be 100 for Guinness. Now I can't completely rely on them, and if everything falls through with them, okay, I've still done it, you know. I still put the work in.
Exactly. And, like, even if it's not official, you broke that record, and that's a great accomplishment.
My phone is dying.
Your parents, oh, yeah, you're good. I just want to finish up. What is a message that you're giving to people that have maybe a disability and they want to be a singer and that's like their dream?
Well, getting in the music industry is hard. There's a lot of people that I think if you're going into the music industry, don't look out there to be famous. Just look out there to have fun. And, you have to network, you have to do local gigs, and just focus on the immediate area around you. And because fame is a very, very fickle thing to get and very hard to get, and it's not something I've ever wanted, but I see a lot of people not being able to stay in for the long term because that was their only goal. If you get into music and you become a singer and you want to become a musician, make sure the primary thing that you love is music, whether you're going to get famous or not, whether you're going to make money or not. I have a lot of friends that are professional musicians, but they still like cannot afford just being a full-time musician because it's expensive to tour. It is expensive with the equipment to maintain the image, do any marketing on social media. It's all expensive and time intensive. I would recommend if you get into music, be prepared for, not monetarily working out because it's very hard to make money at music.
I love that. You should do what you love and not always for the fame or cash.
Exactly. I mean, everybody wants entertainment. My mom said, look, Zelena, if a solar flare happens and knocks out all technology, well, people still want entertainment. They still want you to sing. Even if society burns up into flames, people will still want you to sing.
I love it. And I know this is only the beginning for you, and a lot of people forget, okay, I'm still young, like there's so much more I can do, and this is only the beginning.
Yeah. Also, everybody who's a viewer here, all make sure to take breaks and stuff and do it at your own pace. Music is best done if you feel like doing it. A lot of people push themselves to an extreme and they go broke before they can reach that finish line, so to speak. Like mentally, physically, they just can't do it anymore. Just do it at your own pace because realistically, at no point in this industry was it super unbelievably lucrative to be a musician. You just got to be mindful
Yeah,
of
it's
how
very
your
important
future.
because we can burn ourselves out very quickly doing that.
Burnout, yeah. Never work yourself too hard, and always keep that in mind. We have to survive, but try your best if you have the choice to not to overwork yourself, especially with something you're not making money at, especially something that you're like, look, I love doing this, but I don't make money at it. Don't stress yourself out. Don't be worried, oh man, I didn't reach this follower goal or I didn't reach this like count. Don't be worried about that. Just be focusing on your craft and what you like doing.
I love that, and I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure to hear your story and how your career started.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. I'll see you later. Bye.
Well, I'll see you later. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.